I was a security guard for this local company in my area. I was assigned to a large electrical supplies store, with another guard who was regularly there keeping watch. He was to train me and show me around, tell me what codes open what doors, and things such as that. The first thing I noticed was how quick he was to enter and leave the property. He never seemed to want to spend long time inside before he would already be eager to leave. As soon as possible. On our first night was simple, there was nothing exciting or interesting going on, so the night was really dragging. After a few hours, I asked him if he'd ever experienced anything unusual while working there. He told me he'd had some problems with people trying to enter the property without permission, but that was really about it. He also told me he hated working there because of his encounters with those very same people. He said they really creeped him out because of how sneaky they were. He didn't really want to tell me too much, he was afraid I would leave my post. It seemed that should have been a red flag for me, but I was too excited to let anything like that scare me. After a few more hours, our shift was over, so we clocked out and went home for the day. The next night, my boss called me to explain the security guard who was supposed to be my partner had now resigned. I was, of course, a little upset. Now I had to work a twin post all by myself with barely any knowledge of this place at all. Fast forward a few weeks, now I had started to really get the hang of the place and created my own routine with no issues at all. No break-ins, no vandalism, nothing. It was around 1:30 a.m. or so, and I was outside at the front of the property completing my round when I heard a door slam from inside. I jumped in surprise from just how loud it was. As I started to walk back into the property, I continued to hear various doors opening and closing. I could feel myself getting nervous. This was my first situation I'd ever had at this place. As I walked inside and started to check the doors and complete a round to make sure there was no one on the property, I got to this corridor where there was a set of stairs that led down to a door, which I noted was wide open. I walked down the stairs to close and lock that door. I was too scared to actually take a look inside. As I turned around to head back up the stairs though, I noticed a man dressed in all black now standing at the top of them. I took a step back and realized I was now cornered. If he wanted to try anything, I would have nowhere to run or hide. I politely asked the man if he needed something from me. He didn't reply. I then asked him how he managed to get into the property. He didn't reply to that either. He slowly turned his head and snapped his fingers. Then from the left side of the staircase, another man slowly crawled to his side like a dog on all fours. I turned around and kicked the door open. I ran inside and locked myself in a bathroom as I called my boss and told them what I witnessed. They sent an armed security guard to my position to complete a walkthrough to make sure it was safe. As I got the call that the area was all clear, I came out and told them everything from start to finish. I soon realized, however, that they didn't believe me, so I clocked out and went home for the night. The next morning, I received a call from my boss explaining that they checked the security footage from the night before, and what they told me horrified me. Every hour when I would complete my rounds inside the property, those same two men were following me throughout the facility as if they were stalking me, like it was a game to them. After that, I asked for a new position because I was too horrified to work at that large electrical supplies store. Now I know why my trainer didn't want to work there anymore. Story 1. This incident occurred during my high school years. To my friend Mark, he was working in a car maintenance shop during his summer vacation. In the heart of an isolated, near an old cemetery that whispered secrets to the night, a decrepit car maintenance shop stood. The building, weathered and worn, emanated an eerie aura that unsettled those who dared to venture near. Mark found himself employed at this forsaken auto repair garage, oblivious to the malevolent force that lurked within its grimy walls. Mark's workdays began with the creaking of the rusty door echoing through the dimly lit garage. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead cast long shadows that seemed to dance in tandem with the chilling drafts that swept through the cavernous space. Despite the shop's unsettling atmosphere, Mark dismissed the odd occurrences as mere quirks of an old building. As the weeks passed, Mark started noticing peculiar happenings. Tools inexplicably moved from one workstation to another, and shadows seemed to dart across the garage when he wasn't looking. Whispers, faint and indistinct, reverberated through the empty bays, sending shivers down his spine. Still, Mark brushed off the unease, attributing it to the stress of his demanding job. One fateful night, as Mark toiled away on a particularly stubborn engine, a chilling breeze swept through the garage, extinguishing the work lights. The sudden darkness was accompanied by a guttural growl that seemed to emanate from the depths of the shop. Mark's heart raced as he fumbled for his flashlight, the beam revealing an unsettling sight. Car parts scattered across the floor levitated as if guided by unseen hands. Wrenches and tools floated in the air, moving with an eerie precision. Mark, paralyzed with fear, watched in horror as an ethereal figure materialized before him. A spectral mechanic, clad in oil-stained overalls, glared at Mark with vacant eyes. The ghostly apparition, consumed by an otherworldly rage, reached out towards Mark, its intangible fingers closing around his throat. The air grew thick with the stench of motor oil and a distant, haunting laughter echoed through the garage. Mark struggled for breath as the spectral entity tightened its grip, the malevolent force draining the life from him. In the throes of terror, Mark managed to break free, stumbling backward into a cluttered corner. The ghostly mechanic, enraged by his resistance, unleashed a cacophony of haunting wails that reverberated through the shop. Tools clattered, and the flickering lights intensified as if possessed by a dark force. Desperate to escape the spectral onslaught, Mark bolted towards the exit. The once rusty door swung open with an unearthly creak, allowing Mark to stumble into the night. The cold air outside offered a reprieve from the suffocating grip of the malevolent entity within. As Mark gasped for breath, he turned back to the car maintenance shop. The ghostly mechanic, still visible in the dim light, lingered in the doorway, its ghostly eyes fixated on him. The chilling laughter echoed one last time as the door slowly closed, sealing the unholy workshop in an impenetrable darkness. From that night on, the car maintenance shop stood as a sinister monument to the spectral mechanic's vengeance. Locals whispered of the haunted garage, cautioning anyone who dared to approach. Mark, forever changed by the supernatural encounter, left the town, haunted by the chilling laughter and the ghostly visage of the vengeful mechanic that lurked within the cursed walls of the auto repair shop. Once upon a time, in a small town shrouded in mystery, there stood a dilapidated house with a dark history. It was a place whispered about in hushed tones, a place that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. This house, nestled at the edge of town, was the home of Thomas Gray, a man who unwittingly became entangled in the sinister secrets that lurked within its crumbling walls. Thomas had inherited the house from his late grandmother, a woman who had always warned him to stay away from the hidden corners of the ancient structure. Little did he know that her ominous words carried the weight of 1,000 ghostly tales. The moment he stepped foot into the house, an oppressive atmosphere settled upon him, and the air grew thick with an unsettling energy. The haunting began gradually, with faint whispers echoing through the empty halls when Thomas was alone. He dismissed them as figments of his imagination, attributing them to the creaks and groans of an old house. However, the sounds escalated into disconcerting murmurs, as if unseen entities were conspiring in the shadows. Late one stormy night, Thomas awoke to the sound of footsteps, an eerie cadence that echoed through the silent house. He ventured into the hallway, his footsteps blending with the ghostly echoes. Suddenly, the temperature dropped and a chilling wind swept through the corridor. Doors slammed shut on their own, trapping him in a labyrinth of darkness. Days turned into nights, and the supernatural occurrences intensified. Objects moved of their own accord, furniture rearranged itself, and ghastly apparitions materialized in the corners of his vision. The ghosts wore faces twisted in agony, their eyes hollow voids that seemed to stare into Thomas's very soul. Unearthly groans and moans permeated the air, creating a symphony of horror that resonated through the haunted abode. The climax of terror manifested when Thomas, exhausted and on the verge of madness, saw the apparitions take on grotesque forms. Shadows twisted and contorted into monstrous shapes, and the ghosts appeared in states of decay, their bodies oozing with putrid fluids. It was a nightmarish tableau that invaded his every waking moment. In his desperation, Thomas sought the help of paranormal investigators, hoping they could exorcise the malevolent spirits that tormented him. The investigators, armed with their tools and knowledge, delved into the supernatural mysteries of the house. But as they conducted seances and incantations, the ghosts seemed to feed off the fear, growing stronger and more malevolent. Just when Thomas believed he was on the brink of insanity, the haunting abruptly ceased. The whispers, the footsteps, the grotesque apparitions all vanished as if they had never been. The sudden tranquility left him bewildered, wondering if he had emerged from the clutches of a nightmare or if a deeper, more sinister secret lurked beneath the surface. With the passage of time, Thomas Gray learned to coexist with the memories of the haunting. The house that had once been a chamber of horrors became a testament to his resilience. No one believed the harrowing tales he shared, dismissing them as products of an overactive imagination. Yet, Thomas knew the truth, carrying the weight of the supernatural experiences etched into the very fabric of his being. As the years passed, the house stood as a silent witness to the mysteries that unfolded within its walls. Thomas, marked by the spectral ordeal, moved forward, forever changed by the ethereal entities that had invaded his reality. The haunted house became a relic of the past, a reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the dead and the horrors that can be unleashed when that boundary is breached. Story 33. The night hung heavy over the vast expanse of the ocean, its inky darkness broken only by the feeble glow of distant stars. A lone sailor, named Samuel, found himself on a decrepit vessel that creaked and groaned with every swell of the turbulent sea. The ship was a relic from a bygone era, its time-worn planks barely holding together against the relentless assault of the elements. Samuel, a seasoned sailor with weathered skin and salt-crusted clothes, was accustomed to the solitude of the open sea. However, this night was different. A palpable sense of unease clung to the air, as if the very ocean itself harbored a malevolent secret. As the ship sliced through the black waters, a bone-chilling mist began to rise. Samuel, squinting through the fog, strained his eyes to see beyond the eerie veil that enveloped the vessel. The ship's lanterns flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced ominously on the trembling deck. Suddenly, an otherworldly moan echoed through the air, a sound that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the ocean. The hairs on the back of Samuel's neck stood on end, and a shiver ran down his spine. Ignoring the gnawing fear in his gut, he pressed on, his footsteps echoing hollowly against the wooden planks. As Samuel made his way to the bow, he noticed a peculiar glow beneath the water's surface. An unnatural luminescence emanated from the depths, casting an ethereal glow that illuminated the grotesque forms of unseen creatures lurking in the shadows. The phosphorescent tendrils of these monstrous beings seemed to writhe with an unholy life of their own. In the oppressive silence, the ship's hull began to groan louder, as if the very soul of the vessel was tormented. Samuel's heart pounded in his chest as he peered over the edge, his eyes widening in horror at the sight that met his gaze. From the abyss below, ghastly apparitions emerged, their spectral forms twisting and contorting in agony. Faces distorted by anguish stared up at Samuel, their hollow eyes boring into his very soul. These tortured souls seemed to be condemned to an eternity beneath the waves, and their mournful wails echoed in the chilling night. Unable to tear his eyes away from the ghastly spectacle, Samuel felt a cold hand grip his heart. The ship, now enveloped in an otherworldly glow, began to lurch and sway as if caught in the clutches of unseen hands. Whispers, ancient and indiscernible, echoed through the air, causing a surge of terror to course through Samuel's veins. In the midst of the nightmarish vision, Samuel heard a voice not his own but one that seemed to speak directly into the recesses of his mind. "Abandon hope, sailor," it murmured, a haunting refrain that lingered in the air like a curse. As the ship continued its descent into the abyss, Samuel's mind became a turbulent sea of fear and despair. The once stalwart sailor was now a puppet, manipulated by forces beyond his comprehension. The spectral entities, their tortured faces a macabre chorus, beckoned him into the depths, into a realm where nightmares held sway. And so, the decrepit vessel sailed into the heart of the abyss, its lanterns extinguished one by one, leaving only the wailing echoes of lost souls and the fading glow of phosphorescent horrors. Samuel, trapped in a nightmarish purgatory, became just another tale whispered among sailors, a tale of a haunted night on the open sea, where the line between the living and the dead blurred into a tapestry of eternal dread.